Croptastic, a podcast by InnerPlant. I'm Sean Yokomizo, and I welcome you to a new season of the podcast. This is also a new season of CropVoice, InnerPlant's disease detection network, powered by our magical plants that signal when they're infected. Now, the plants are in the ground, the detection bars are up, and the first scouting reports are out. So, to kick off this new season, we're going to devote this episode to diving into CropVoice 2026 offering. And joining me on the pod are Gary Schaefer, our Chief Commercial Officer, and Ariel Patton, our Head of Product. Welcome to the both of you.
Thanks, Sean. It's great to be here.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, Gary, our listeners might benefit from a quick overview of CropVoice and really a recap of the pretty amazing inaugural 2025 season we had that laid the foundation for 26. Would you mind running us through that? And then we'll kick it over to Ariel to kind of walk through some of the plus ups that we're going to see in 2026.
Yeah, sure, Sean. So 2025, or back before, let me back up just a second there. CropVoice is the only detection tool powered by plants that are engineered to identify specific diseases before symptoms are visible. And this allows farmers to know if, when, where to spray, and what diseases are infecting their plants. And we were able to, in 2025, deploy this technology in parts of Nebraska, specifically in the Northeast. And it was a phenomenal year, Sean. What we learned in 2025 is that we're able to give farmers this information and create the ability for them to take an action that had a meaningful result on their farm operations. And so in 2025, the first time in the history of 10,000 years of agriculture, we're able to detect a white mold infection in real time. And this gave farmers the information, the power to really take control of this disease far before they ever would have, traditionally. A lot of farmers will spray based on a calendar, a timing, a growth stage. And what we found with CropVoice is that these infections were happening a lot sooner than when farmers probably had anticipated. And so it allowed them to prioritize their workflows, select the right treatment or remedy for the disease, and to really take an action that resulted in a significant gain for them. So 2025 was really a fun year for launching CropVoice in this area.
Yeah, it was super exciting. I think just from a company standpoint, that first ever detection, first light we called it, of that detection of white mold in Yankton County, South Dakota. We actually have some information from one of our farmers, Aiden Kleinschmidt, who was part of that alert, received one of those alerts and took action. In the details of this podcast episode, we'll have a link to that testimonial so our viewers can see that. But yeah, amazing year. A lot of firsts, a lot of great learnings, and really kind of setting the stage for our 2026 season, which is where Ariel comes in because she is head of product building this amazing machine.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah. And just to double down on 25, really proved how we can help farmers make an ROI positive decision, especially in these tough economic climate. It's really important that if farmers are going to spend some of their dollars on sprays, that it works and that it's at the right time. And we proved out in 25 that we were able to do that. So with that momentum, we're carrying that into 26 and making a bunch of upgrades. The biggest one that I'm really excited about is that we now are offering disease specificity for our customers. So we had a pretty good inkling of what disease it was last year, but now that we've collected all of our images of our special inner soy plants and have improved our modeling, we're able to say with much more conviction what specific disease is actually in farmers' fields. And so, as Gary mentioned, that helps farmers make the right product choice. Not every product works the same against every disease. And to make that right economic decision, is this a disease I care about? Is it going to harm my bottom line or not? So that's a really big one. And the other piece here is that we've greatly expanded the CropVoice network in terms of the geography. So Gary mentioned we were up in northeastern Nebraska last year. We're deepening that network there and then expanding further into Nebraska and all the way into western parts of Iowa. And with that broader geography, it's been really helpful for farmers to be able to see maybe not only what is happening in their immediate area, but what's happening a couple counties over. So we have that broader base of information to show how disease might be moving through that area and give farmers that heads up. And then beyond that, we've really improved, the look and feel of our scouting reports. They're delivered via text message and email or through the John Deere Operations Center on a weekly basis. And those disease alerts as well that are as soon as we are aware of disease in a farmer's field, the farmer will know about that so that they can take action.
That's great. And there was one important part that I want to kind of tease out because we talked about this transition from 25 to 26 and the ability to start identifying specific diseases. And really, that is testament to the value of data. And I want to make sure that's not skipped over because I think that that's something that people miss a lot is traditionally, I think farmers are used to getting a product, say a chemical, and then using that chemical, and then over time it gets less and less effective, and suddenly you have 140 plus weeds that are immune to whatever chemical you're using, right? But data actually gets better over time. So the more data we get, the more looks at a disease, the more looks at a plant we get, the smarter the data gets, so the better the product gets. And I think that's a huge, for me, that's super exciting coming from 25 to 26, seeing that benefit, that clear benefit of data maturing and developing and adding value over time. Yeah?
100%, Sean. And the exciting thing is that beyond just our inner soy plants, which, that's our secret sauce, that's what really gives that early warning because the plants are telling us, they're signaling that there's disease before any symptoms are visible. Beyond that, the plants, we are also taking tissue samples in the field every week so we can know what pathogens are out there. We are getting our boots on the ground agronomists who are trained in pathology to also see what other conditions might be there and really get that full human view. We, of course, look at weather and weather forecasts, and we put all of that together in advanced computer models and to really hone in on what disease is where.
And Gary, talk to me a little bit about, because I think one of the big things that I hear you and your team talking about when you're talking to farmers is the value of having this overlapping network, right? So it's not just like a node of a network, but there's many nodes that connect and inform each other. Talk to me about the value of that and what that looks like when you guys, because obviously you have to plan that, right? You have to understand like where these are going. Talk to me a little bit about where we're placing them, why we're placing them. Help the viewers understand what that process looks like.
Yeah. So what we do, Sean, is partner and I think in agriculture, it's so important that we don't lose our roots, meaning agriculture is very grounded in local information that's relevant locally. And so this is where the foundation of everything we do starts is we're locally relevant. We place blocks of these soybeans that are engineered to identify these diseases in farmers' neighborhoods. These are in their area. They're planted, in relevant conditions to their farms. And we place these and create just a large network effect that allows farmers to tap into a broader network of plants, right? So, if you think about a cell phone tower analogy, when you buy a cell phone, you don't ask for the cell phone tower, to go in your backyard, right? You're buying it because there's a large network of towers that supports the service you want to receive. And we think of CropVoice very similar. What's quite a bit different though, Sean, is we build our network every year. So every year we get the chance to look at the topography, to look at disease maps, to look at weather forecasts, weather history, soil types. We take all of this information into account and more, and we create zones that allows us to really strategically place these plots so that they are so locally relevant in farmers' neighborhoods so that they can rely on the data.
So we have this high degree of localization, this collection of data. Ariel, as I mentioned at the beginning, we've already got scouting reports going out. We've got our first disease alert went out. what are you seeing as we're prosecuting the very early stages of 2026? What's it look like out there?
Yeah. So farmers, obviously, they're well into the season. Planting is far behind us. Plants are growing well. Mostly across our region, farmers got enough moisture for the crop to get established pretty well. And what we're seeing, I mean, there's obviously it's a pretty large region. There's a lot of variability across the region, but there's a lot of pockets that we are watching for where foliar disease might be a real issue. And in certain areas that typically don't get as much rain, we're seeing a lot of moisture. So as you know, pathogens love, for the most part, need some level of moisture to be able to thrive. We're seeing that. And then in other areas that are more dry, they're staying cooler. And when we look at white mold in particular, which is a really economically harmful disease, white mold really likes temperatures under about 85 degrees. And so we're seeing those conditions as well. So depending on if farmers are irrigating to create that moist environment, we might see some white mold action this year as well. So we are watching 24/7 to see what diseases show up. And as you mentioned, we did send out our first disease alert this year already, which is pretty early. What we saw is Cercospora leaf blight, which is a foliar pathogen, very common in the southern US, growing and it's becoming more common in the Midwest. And we're seeing it pretty early. Typically, we don't see it until after canopy closure, but we actually are seeing it a little before then. So we went ahead and let the farmers in the affected areas know that already.
For the listeners who may not be familiar, CropVoice sends out weekly scouting reports. So that's the overall look at all the data coming in, forecasting out for the next week. But when there's an actual detection from the plants fluorescing, turning on, there's an active infection, we send out in the moment disease alerts via text, emails, and John Deere Operations Center. And all of this is operationalized through our retail partners. We sell through retailer partners. So we have these very local partners. Gary talked about the importance of having that local component. Gary, how are the retailers reacting to this? This is something that, we're partnering with them to not only find fields, but to sell this to customer farmers. How's that progressing? What's the feedback been, particularly coming from 25 to 26? What are the things they're looking at, the things they're learning?
I think the big takeaway is that, there's a lot of different tools that our retail partners are provided to try and help farmers solve problems. But fundamentally, if you look at the facts, Sean, like today, more acres in row crop production agriculture in the United States are getting treated with a fungicide than ever have been in the history. And there's high adoption, high use. But at the same time, we're losing more yield to disease while also utilizing new fungicide products that have new modes of action. And so I think our retail partners have really just realized it's like there's something here that we're missing. And Sean, a lot of what we have learned in deploying CropVoice over the years is the thing that's missing is timing is so important. You can have the best tools, um, to try and support your farmers. You can guess at when you may need to apply based on a calendar or growth stage. But at the end of the day, there's a really specific, acute time of which you can have a major impact with the tools you're given. And that is so important. And so I think what our retail partners have really taken away is that, hey, to best support our farmers so that, they can preserve this yield and not lose billions and billions and billions of dollars in yield loss to fungus, we need a tool that's going to better help us inform and coach our farmer customers around how to apply these, when to apply them, and what to apply them. And I think that's really been the big takeaway, which is, got a lot of new tools, new fungicide active ingredients. Okay, this is going to be the cure-all. We're going to go spray this. Everything's going to be okay. But you talk to a lot of farmers across the Midwest, you talk to their retail partners, and there's still a lot of trying to figure out when is the best time, when is the right time, how many times, what disease, when do I go for this disease, when do I go for this? And that's what CropVoice has been designed to do from the very beginning. That's what our plants do is give that information. And so What I see moving from 25 to 26, Sean, is, we have obviously have a significantly larger cohort of retail partners that are taking Crop Voice to farmers across Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, parts of Kansas. And that's super exciting. Um, but I think the next step is, a lot of the retailers are really realizing how this can help them help their farmers, right? And at all levels of their organization. And so that's what's been exciting to see is, a lot of times in agriculture, things start, kind of want to try this, I want to understand how it works. And okay, now I kind of understand it. I'm going to incorporate this into kind of how our operation. And what's been exciting for me, Sean, is just to see the retail partners, how they have grasped this, understand the impact it can have for their organization, better empower them to help their farmers, and they're really running right to that. And I think it's going to be a great result for farmers in the areas that we serve.
And Ariel, just pulling on the on that thread that Gary talked about, retailers trying to help farmers. One of the interesting things about your job, which is very, in addition to just being head of product, you also head up the customer service team or customer success team. And that involves actually reaching out, onboarding farmers, making sure that the user experience is good and farmers are getting the most out of these tools that they can. Um, Recently won an award for that team, which is great to see because I know the team works really hard on that. So your award winning CS team. Um, I'm interested just because kind of the white glove service of providing this to farmers. Walk us through that because it is a
Yeah.
pretty unique experience, I think, in agriculture.
Yeah. And I think the number one thing here is that, you know, we are totally focused on the farmer experience. And to us, we've been thinking about disease 365 days a year. And we know that our customers, they think about disease for, these few weeks to a couple months. It's a discrete decision at a very specific point in time, and that timing really matters, but it's not, their end all be all. And so the way that we have designed our customer service, customer support is to really make sure that every touch point with our customer helps them take action, make an informed decision, feel more confident about their fungicide decisions. And meanwhile, we're not assuming that we know they've got a million other things and that they've got a busy life going on. So, couple things that looks like. One is that we meet farmers where they're at. We send text messages, emails, or John Deere Operations Center. So we're meeting them where they're at. Um, in terms of communication. And we have a team here that personally reaches out multiple times throughout the season for a phone call just to make sure that the customer is aware of what to expect, has all their questions answered. We know that underneath the hood, there's some really advanced technology in Crop Voice, but to the farmer customer, we want it to be as simple as possible. And so our customer success team really bridges that divide and makes it really actionable and useful for our customers when it matters to them.
So 26 sounds like it's off to a great start. A lot of good stuff coming out. Talk to me a little bit about what we're hoping to see for this season, and then maybe tease a little bit about how this will inform the product evolution into 27.
Yeah. So one thing, I mentioned we meet farmers where they are at, and we know most guys are really busy. They check their text messages. Email's a big maybe. They don't want to necessarily remember another password or have to log in somewhere else. But we have, after talking with many of our customers, we have found that there is a segment of our customers who are like, hey, I don't want this weekly. I want this every day. I want to wake up, look at this with my coffee in the morning when it's in that really intense disease season. And so we're really taking that feedback to heart and working on an experience to make that more on demand for those customers who want just all of the information whenever they want it. So I think that's really one big takeaway that we're actively working on.
And Gary, from your point of view, what are some of your goals in terms of pleasing the customers, pleasing the retailers, and for 26, and then looking forward into 27?
Yeah, I think as you know, 2026, it's a lot about what Ariel talked about with our customer success team. And it's also, part of our sales team's at motion and effort as well, which is, we want to make sure that we answer and are present to be available for farmers who have questions who are enrolled in Crop Voice this year. At the same time, Sean, we're continuing to train, retail salespeople this season. So, I mean, we can have all the winter meetings we want, but the best training ground is right now. It's being present, going to the fields, looking at fluorescence before symptoms are present, and then coming back 2, 3, 4 weeks later and actually seeing that disease and, oh, it has manifested itself. I do see symptoms and being able to take and train people right now, our retail partners on that is so incredibly important because I think in 27 we're going to scale crop voice again. And I think that's going to be a common theme over the next over the foreseeable future. And so as we do that, it's important that we continue to educate and train the people that are going to be able to offer this and help farmers in the 27 season. But at the same time, we do not take our eye off the ball, or off of the customers, our farmer customers, and our retail partners, who are enrolled in Crop Voice, who are providing this service to farmers today. And being present in their fields too. I mean, what's more fun than Ariel said, we provided a disease alert already this season in 26. I mean, what a great opportunity to take a farmer who for the first time, maybe for the second time, has enrolled in Crop Voice, but to go out to their fields and walk their fields with them, and then talk to them about what this disease alert means. It's so important that we're locally relevant, we're in the neighborhoods, we're available to do these sorts of things. And because this is a big change of in a technology that's really going to empower farmers to take action. And so being able to go there right now in the season, that we get this opportunity once a year, right? So we got to make the most of it.
Let's get our hands dirty a little bit because you and Ariel both talked about um, being local and all the work that goes into that. Ariel, you kind of talked a little bit about some of the leaf assays that we do. Let's pull the veil back a little bit because I'm in a wonderful position where I actually get to see the amount of work that goes into standing this up. Everything from our lab here in Davis, where the assays are actually being done. This is a bespoke lab that didn't exist anywhere in the world that we had to build to do what we're doing, to the detection bars that have to get built, to the guys in the field putting them in there. Like walk me through this is it's a pretty amazing undertaking. It's great that the farmers at the end of the day get the text and the email and the John Deere Operations Center and they're where they want to be, but there's so much that goes into that. Help me out with explaining some of all the craziness that goes into it.
Yeah. And so I think one of my favorite things about InnerPlant is just we have a lot of people who are very, very, very humble about what they do, but they're inventing crazy new things all the time. And so one of those examples is that when we were starting R&D for Crop Voice, we would take tissue samples, send them out to existing labs, and they either would take months and months, so the season was already over, the information was stale by the time we got it back, or they didn't have the specific pathogen assays to test for certain pathogens that we wanted. So we couldn't quite get exactly what we needed. And one of our scientists was like, well, I can just make these. So, and he did. And that was just pretty mind blowing. And so in our lab, we now have um, molecular assays, basically tests that test for specific soybean pathogens that we are on the lookout for. And so if you think about the disease triangle where you need a susceptible host, we're talking about the soybean plant, you need a pathogen, and you need a conducive environment. It's really critical that you know what pathogens are out there to even infect, to even create that disease. And so with our lab, we have a very fast turnaround time within days. We have the specific soybean diseases detection, basically that we can get a clear understanding of what specific pathogens are out there. So our team just created those unique tests, and we run those every week in the season so that we understand that full disease triangle picture.
There's a lot that goes into that. And Gary, I know your team is on the ground because we have this lab in Davis. Where do we get the plants from, right? So we have to scout
Yeah.
these fields, and someone's out there taking plants. So what? That's a pretty crazy setup too. There's literally people taking clips of plants and sending them, packing them in ice, and sending them over. Walk me through those logistics because that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, it starts years and years before. And so a lot of what will get planted and has been planted in 26 and will get planted in 27 was based on decisions that were made years ago because it starts with a seed. And so, as you know, Sean and Ariel, and probably most of you watching this podcast understand is, we produce seed in the northern hemisphere and we also produce it in the southern hemisphere. And we do that so that we have enough seed to be able to plant these plots in the right germplasm and the right maturity groups for the areas we serve. And so, to when you're making these decisions, it has impacts many years beyond just the current year that you're in. And so that's where it really starts. It starts there planning very early. It then starts in distributing. And so we work with some of the best custom planters and partners across these areas. And so we have a tremendous agronomy operations team that partners so closely to distribute these seeds, identify all of these fields that we are going to plant blocks of these seeds in all of these neighborhoods across the Midwest. And it's a very coordinated effort. It sounds, Sean, I mean, in the early days, it was daunting to think that we were going to be able to pull this off. I mean, it was incredible this season. I mean, I think planning spread generally, most of it spread, 5 to 6 week period of time. And so in a specific neighborhood or an area where a farmer was planting, a farmer would plant the next day, even that day, our planters are rolling through and planting our soybeans. And there's so much that goes into that operational detail to get that right. But it's so critically important because we have to be locally relevant and it has to match what's happening with farmers. So I would say, just getting the seed in the ground is a many year process that I think a lot of people take for granted. The efforts to coordinate getting that in the ground is another one. And I think like most farmers, then we wait to see that the beans emerge, and we're always thankful when they do. But when they do, then the scouting and the work begins in season. And again, so our team, we have a dedicated agronomy operations team with them and their supporters are out scouting these fields weekly. So every one of our fields is getting eyes on it multiple times a week. But in addition to that, like Ariel said, we're also taking these samples and running these through our laboratories. And I think what's really interesting about that, Sean, that's a bit different than probably how it's done historically, is, oftentimes in the history is we would wait for a symptom, we would collect that leaf, we would send it to confirm what that disease is we're seeing. We completely flip that. So the reason we do these tissue samples, the reason our team is out there collecting these so early is, think about the disease triangle. You can't have an infection unless you have a pathogen present. We use the pathogens to foreshadow to the farmers what is likely going to be infecting the plants. And so it's so important, as you say, that, yeah, we get these seeds in the ground, we get everything planted, everything comes up. The work's just going to begin. Now we got to deploy all of the detection devices all over these fields. We did that in literally less than a week this year. It was tremendous effort. All of those were deployed, and then we start sampling and scouting. And as Errol said, we're in the season. We've got a disease alert, and we're going to continue to scout. We're going to continue to sample. We're going to continue to image these plants day and night.
And building on that, imaging those plants, our team built bespoke camera setups so that we can get, in addition to the human eyes, that are looking at our crop. We are looking at this, 24/7 with our detection equipment. And so we're taking specialized images and analyzing those with computer vision models to really pull together all these different pieces of information and provide the best information to the farmer. So it's, from hardware to software to agronomy. There is just a huge amount of expertise required to get this, very simple disease alert and report to the customer and make sure that that's the most comprehensive and accurate information for them.
All that stuff coming together, all that stuff exists, right? So we've talked about the plants and the seeds, the detection equipment, the assay lab. So Ariel, you've built this machine, and I'm picturing the farmer sitting there on Friday with their phone or on their computer looking at their scouting report. That's a great outcome for that farmer. But what does that week look like for you? Let's pull the veil back. So when that farmer's sitting there looking at the scouting report, what has happened from Monday morning all the way to when that disease, what shenanigans have our team been up to that whole week to make that happen?
Yeah, it's very controlled chaos, or we hope that it's controlled. But all of these different streams of information, streams of data, whether that's multiple different images of the plants, and we're talking, you know, thousands of images daily. Um, all of those are coming in. Our models are reviewing them. We have humans reviewing them. We have scouting reports from our guys that are on the ground looking at the crop with their eyes. We have that information, those notes coming in, those photos. We have the weather data. Obviously, that's changing constantly. We have the molecular assays results. So the tissue sampling, our lab in Davis, as soon as they get those, little pieces of plant tissue submit, they are running their equipment to make sure that, determine what pathogens there are. They send us a report. So we get all of these different data streams, and our team pulls that information together and tries to make it into something really actionable, very clear, reading the tea leaves basically, and to really understand, what's the takeaway for the farmer? What does this mean actually for disease, and what a farmer's supposed to do with that information? So it is a lot of information coming at us all at once, and we want to be as transparent as possible with our customers while not giving them the full fire hose of every little detail.
Yeah, I think that's the critical part is processing that through. And I think it's important also for people to understand that Um, I'm going to actually pull the veil back a little bit more and kind of out our little secret. We have an institution in InnerPlant called the War Room, which meets, and this is like CENTCOM level planning. It's an event. It's a meeting that's scheduled every day, and our experts come together, and so we do have this tremendous technology. We have AI models and we have imagers and we have all this stuff. But at the end of the day, we bring together all those streams of data in front of these experts in this room. It's a virtual meeting, but they all see this data. And it's a bespoke room. Our team actually built some pretty impressive software to help visualize it. It's a tough, as Ariel said, literally thousands of photos are going through here. So it's at the edge of human capability. So the technology helps, but at the end of the day, these are human experts coming together, processing through that data, and each day that the information is processed, decisions are made, and we know we can make sure those models are where they need to be, and what's getting to our farmer customers is actually real data. And I think that's a tremendous amount of work and dedication, and I just love the fact that that's there. Gary, you participate in some of these. Like, what's that environment like?
Well, that's what I was going to correct you, Sean, because I'm certainly not the expert that's in that room. I can promise you that. Uh, but it's intense. I mean, you're talking about some of the best pathologists, the best scientists, the inventors of this technology, all converging multidisciplinary into one meeting, applying their expertise, understanding the stakes of the decisions that they're going to make. And to be a part of that, to observe that, and to represent from a commercial perspective the implications of these decisions Um, there's a disease alert. What does that mean? Like, okay, like we have to get everybody ready. This is right. There's, as you understand, there's decision trees, there's communication trees that happen from this. It's fascinating. I mean, it absolutely. I remember the first time I saw it, Sean, just reflecting. Um, was out with a team in California last year, and it was the first time I saw it, and I just said, "Wow." And I just said to myself, as somebody who's out here that talks to farmers about this every day and retail partners, I can't even do it justice trying to describe the technology until when you see that war room and you realize just, the seriousness, the level of professionalism, the level of expertise, and then just the amount of information and the fidelity of that information, how clear, crisp, and quality it is that comes in. Um, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I was blown away, and I guess my takeaway was just if every farmer across the Midwest saw this and saw what went into it, and our retail partners were able to see this, to experience this, um, I don't think there's a farmer that wouldn't be enrolled in CropVoice, Sean. I mean, it's that impressive, and there's really nothing like it.
Yeah, profound technology and a Herculean effort, definitely. But yeah, so that's our kind of sharing information. I wanted to make sure in this episode that we talked about 2026, that our farmer customers had a good insight, not only in the high level stuff of the work that we go through, but really getting the nitty gritty, diving a little deeper, seeing the effort, the validation, the really profound innovation that's at work here at every level. So I hope this episode has provided that with everyone. Again, thank you to Gary Schaefer, our Chief Commercial Officer, and Ariel Patton, who's our Head of Product, for joining me, helping pull back that veil, give some insight into our customers. Great conversation. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sean.
Sean.